3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
There we go. That was the one. Welcome along, Rob. I hope everybody watching has got their sick bag ready, because this is the roller coaster that is Leicester City. And we were just talking before we came live, and I said to Rob, I can remember back in August you said, I'm not covering Leicester now they're down in the Championship, and yet here we are.
Yeah. Well, I think I did add that there's always something going on at Leicester, and I was going to get pulled back in, even if it's for a brief period. And here we are, back talking about Leicester City, and there's a lot to discuss. There's a lot going on around the club at the moment, and it's an interesting time again. I mean, they've never done a dull season, have they? Never done mid-table obscurity, so there's always something a sacking or.
What we would give for mid-table obscurity.
We'd all get bored.
I mean, look, let's start with the fact that he's been over for the weekend.
Yeah,
and I guess that's very nice of him to spare the time. I'm being a bit facetious there, obviously, but it's almost like he couldn't wait to get back. We almost feel, and you've obviously, you were questioning about this, but we almost feel like we were the forgotten child, if you like, out of sight, out of mind. Why did he come back and do these interviews when to a lot of people he was saying, we're going to give Marty, we're going to talk and see how it's going, when he probably knew that we're going to sack him, and he would probably know he was going to get asked that.
Well, he was asked. Let me just put this into context. I mean, this interview, or this round of interviews, was probably in the pipeline, I think, for a while. But it was just getting everything lined up in terms of dates and availability and everything, because I think there's a realization that the club has contributed a little bit to the disconnect in terms of communication. So I think that this was a genuine effort to try and reconnect a little bit and try and explain, because since the terrible relegation 22-23, there have been a lot of questions that have gone unanswered, and I think it was long overdue. But I think, I mean, Top isn't like a gregarious man. He's not somebody that seeks out attention, seeks out limelight. He's not some of the owners that love to be front and centre and the most important people in terms of the media at the club. I mean, I can remember when I first started covering Leicester, Milan Mandaric was the owner and chairman, and you could just pick the phone up and speak to him anytime you wanted, much to the frustration of the press officers at the time, who used to say, Milan, stop answering your phone to the journalists. And then the next day I'd ring him and he'd go, Rob, and he'd start telling you everything that's going on.
Yeah.
The Top is a very different character to that. And so I think he didn't really. I mean, he comes from a culture as well where there isn't a lot of media scrutiny. So they don't understand why everybody's like asking all these awkward questions all the time, because they don't get that back home. So there's a cultural difference as well. But I think there's been a realization that this has gone too far now in terms of the fan protests and the discontent that is evident. So, but the problem it's been delayed was the Queen Mother of Thailand died. Now, obviously, the King Power and the family are very closely linked to the royal family, hence King Power, the name. So you know there was a period of mourning that had to be observed as well, which was quite long. I mean, somebody did actually say to me, and I don't know if this is actually true, that even smiling during a period of mourning in public is frowned upon. So you know they take it very, very seriously. A lot, you know, they're a very respectful culture. But I think I think that wasn't 2 months. I mean, it's been 2 months since he's been to a game, so there's other reasons as well. And he said he did explain to us that because we were in the written section. So the written section, we were in a little room, and he came in and sat with us, and there was 5 of us in there. There was John Percy from the Telegraph, Jonathan Northcroft from the Times, Ben Fisher from the Guardian, and Jordan from the Leicester Mercury. And we spent about an hour with him. This is before he went and did radio and TV as well. And we did ask him, did you feel, why are you doing this? Why did you feel you needed to do this? And do you feel you've left this too late? You should have done this a long time ago. And what he tried to say to us was that, you know, he's got, since his father's death, he's got to take on the King Power duties as well. And he's got 7,000 to 8,000 employees over there that were reliant on him as well. And he was trying to do both and was struggling because he said, well, you know, when my dad was alive, he said, if my dad was in Thailand, I was here. If he was here, I was in Thailand. And he said, I've been having to do this on my own. And that's why he employed a CEO to take over at King Power to free him up a little bit to be more present around Leicester. And then obviously things still didn't quite fall into line. So they got Monica in as the interim general manager to be his eyes and ears over here as well. So I do feel like it's well overdue. And I think a lot of people would agree that it's long overdue. At least he's made the effort to come and speak. Now, I've seen some of the reactions today, and obviously they're not. Some people aren't best pleased with what he said, but I don't think those people would no matter what he said. I don't think they'd be. I mean, unless he said, "I'm selling the club," I think some people would not be placated at all. So, but he's made an effort to speak, and you know, we've made an effort to put some things to him and ask some questions about what's happened, what's gone wrong, and what the plan is now to get it right and get Leicester back on track.
I think, interestingly, I'm looking at this with a slight bit of disbelief. I mean, I'm kind of, as we were talking again before I came in, I fall into the older generation of fans box. Yes. And kind of thinking, well, you know, I've enjoyed the last 10 years, but that's Leicester for you. And the youngsters don't always tend to appreciate that. I mean, I'm just looking now at the picture on your, and I did tag you in your piece because I put it up on Facebook and X because it's an excellent piece that you've written, Rob. And there's a picture there: sack the board, King Power out. And you know, I'm always of the opinion: be careful what you wish for. But I think I read this and look at this, and I think, okay, I'm not sure how far I'm going to believe him on this, because he had a very nice interview with the gentleman from the club over in Thailand, which was very, without getting any political, it's like, you know, Sir Keir Starmer being interviewed by David Lammy. You know, I mean, the guy works for the club. I'm sure the questions were vetted beforehand. And we all look at that and think, what has happened since then? All right, we allow for the Queen Mother dying and the period of mourning, but we haven't seen him. He made all these promises. Where's the technical director? Which, in my eyes, he should have had somebody in for the start of the transfer window. And here we are, 3 days off the end of it, or well, just under a week off the end of it. Sorry, 5-6 days. Still no sign of him. So, and the feedback I've got is like it was all BS just to sort of calm things down about John Rudkin.
No. I would disagree with you a little bit there. I mean, in terms of the technical director, that's imminent,
right?
And the issue with when you hire a technical director, if they're already in work, you know, they've got to serve a notice period.
Yeah.
There's also, I mean, it's just the same as you and me in the workplace.
Yeah.
If I decided I wanted to leave the Athletic and go and work for somebody else, then I would have to serve a notice period as part of my contract. So there's issues like that can come up: availability, timing, the recruitment process to make sure you've got the right man in, because this is a huge appointment for me, the most important appointment they've made for a very, very long time. And with the situation now with the manager, you could argue that it's probably the best, the most immediate appointment to make before you bring in the next manager.
Yes.
Because this guy's got to work closely with him. So it's got to be somebody that he knows he can work with. There's no point bringing in a manager and then bringing in the technical director afterward, and straight away they're butting heads and not getting on and it's not working, because then somebody's got to go again.
Well, you'd want the technical director to have an input as to who that manager might be.
Well, I'm hope this is the logic, Chris, that the technical director is the guy that's going to instill the new identity of Leicester City moving forward, because the DNA of Leicester's gone that we know before. It went towards the end of the Brendan Rodgers era in 2022 when they had that disastrous transfer window. Before, you know, they always sold an asset, reinvested it, brought in young players that weren't on other teams' radars, developed them, and then sold them on again. They would be the future assets. The style of play we saw was pretty consistent. Although Claude Puel came in, we did see a period of possession-based football, but it was always high energy. Except for that period, it was always very high energy. And and Top did say this in the interview as well. And I couldn't put this in because I'm restricted to one article, 2,000 words. I'm sure Jordan with the Leicester Mercury that you print every word, I'm sure. But he was talking about identity, and he said, look, you know, we were a counter-attacking team and we won the ball back high up, and that was us. And then we became a possession-based team, and then we played like Pep's teams. And he said, but I don't know what we are now. And I think that's absolutely right. You know, if you said what is the Leicester City identity over the last few appointments, I couldn't nail it down. It's so different.
And maybe because there is no spokesman, you know, in his absence, you know, have we got a press officer? If we have, what the hell is he doing?
Press officers don't speak publicly. No press officer at football club will speak publicly.
No, but can they not put things out? You know, press releases and what have you. Yeah,
well, not press releases, but they can brief. So if I spoke to a press officer of whatever football club, they might give me a little understanding off the record, so not for quoting. This is how the club feels about this, and this is how the club feels about that. That is the way it works. Press officers and directors of communications and all that don't speak publicly. They're more advisors, more for guidance and strategic guidance around the club, rather than being the face of the club. Leicester have always had the manager as the face of the football club. The only one that spoke since Milan. I mean, Milan spoke more than the manager.
He did. We loved him. Unique character. Yeah, you couldn't not love the guy, could you really? Paul said then, it's a very good question then. What about the director of football, who is still, as we stand, you know, John Rudkin? Now, I'm sure if he came out, he would probably be lynched, first of all, you know. He'd have to be have an interview done in total security. But if he was to do an interview and explain his side of things, but it's like, well, look, there he is, he's Top's puppy, and we know all that he's done. And, you know, we do feel sorry for Top, but, you know, other people's parents have died in, you know, not very nice circumstances. How long do we keep going on for that? And what does Rudkin do to earn his pay packet?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's the director of football. So he's the one that carries out Top's decisions. So I would imagine, and I don't know this for certain, but this is a reasonable assumption, that after because Top came in and he was asked about Marty's future, and he didn't back him to what, you know. There was a quote from, I think it's BBC Radio Leicester, where he said, we've got to back him. And then a few hours later, it sacked him. Well, he was very different with us.
Right.
We asked him about Marty, and he basically said, "Well, yeah, we've got to have a conversation. I'm going to talk to a few people. We've got to do what's right for the football club." And I've heard those phrases so many times in my career that straight away, and the other guys had, that we all knew what that meant. So I think that decision was already made. And sure enough, 4 p.m. Marty was sacked there. But but I'm sure that it would have been John that would have delivered that news. It was John that delivered the news to Claudio when he was departed. And I think he would have done that as well. But John does oversee the football side of the football club at the moment. But I've been on your show many times and said the same thing.
Yeah,
they needed more help because they've gone down from a management team of 4 to 2. And Top, it's 1.5 really, because Top's got to look after King Power as well. And that was not sustainable. They needed bodies in. I'm amazed it's taken this long for them to decide to do the reshuffle and the restructure of the management of the club. So what we're going to have now is a new CEO coming in at some stage. Technical director is going to come in imminently. A commercial manager's coming in as well. So you've got more voices, more people to confide in and talk to and discuss issues with. You've got more of a pool of knowledge.
I want to just sorry, but I just want to go back if I can, because you said about the technical director earlier, and I might be putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 6.5 here, which is usually what I do. But you said when you're employing a technical director, you've got things to consider, like, and the words you notice period.
Yeah.
Does that mean that we are looking at somebody for that position that is all? And I don't expect you to name names, and you may not even know. But does that mean we are looking for somebody who is currently in that or a position of some description?
I know they've spoken to people that are in positions. So if one of those people was you decide that's the guy, then you've got to allow them, because it's very different to, like, getting a player. It's the same as our employment world. I went on the Athletic, offered me a role, and I was at the Leicester Mercury. I went in and I told my editor I'm leaving, and I served the 4-week notice period before I could take up my new position. So and it's very similar in that respect. And I'm sure the technical director coming in will have had experience of that role. This ain't going to be somebody that's going to be a newbie to the role. It'll be somebody with some experience. They're going to work below Top and John, but they're going to work closer with the manager, academy manager, and create that pathway even better between the academy and the first team as well. Because I think we can all tell the direction we're going in terms of young players coming through. We've got a lot of talent coming through. Some of them might be in the first team prematurely because of circumstances at the moment, but I think that's where they see the future being, developing your assets and then getting back to that model they had before. So there will be a notice period.
Interestingly, and this is something else, and we're going to very quickly come on to the interview, but you said about the identity from a counter-attack through to possession. And the feeling, for certainly what I believed, and I think a lot of fans, majority of fans believe, that it was Top that wanted this possession-based football, and it was Top that wanted the tippy-tappy, let's play out from the back. That's why Marty got the job, even though Rude had failed miserably with that last season. But when we won the Premier League, we didn't play the Premier League. I believe it was 4-4-2. We weren't playing this tippy-tap, which everybody hates. And we can see Stolarczyk isn't up to it. The defenders, well, let's not talk about the defenders. And then for him to say, well, we've lost our identity. And I'm sorry, Top. As far as I understand, it's you that has contributed to that.
But they did have that possession-based identity when they won the Championship last time. Admittedly, with the biggest budget in Championship history.
That makes a difference.
That's the caveat to that. But that style of play was successful in the Championship before. And then the problem you have, though, is when you go up to the Premier League and you take that style of football to the top clubs in the Premier League, they're playing that style of football well, but with better players. So then you're taking them on an even kill. But the beauty of Leicester in 2015-16 was they were playing a style of football that was so different to everybody else, and it took them all by surprise. They didn't know how to deal with it. Some of the top clubs in the country, people say, yes, they were all having sort of an off season to an extent, but they were coming up against a team they didn't know what to do with. 4-4-2. Nobody plays 4-4-2 anymore. Nobody sits back and soaks up pressure and breaks at lightning speed. Nobody's got a Mahrez like that. And Mark Albrighton putting crosses in after cross after cross after cross. Jamie Vardy on fire. No, it was something they just weren't used to and they couldn't deal with. If you're then going into the Premier League playing the same style of football with them, but with players that are, with all due respect, inferior to them, you're going to get beaten every week. And that's.
I think at the moment, Dracula would feel safe when Leicester are playing because we don't have any crosses at all, do we? Bum bum.
They haven't got number 9, Chris. They haven't got somebody to cross to. That's the big problem. I think for Tau and Mavididi, Mavididi's a confidence player, and I could tell early in the season because I've still been watching all the games. That Steffi lost his way early and looked like he'd just lost he missed a couple of really good chances, didn't he, early in the season, and he just like his confidence was drained. I do think he's still got something to offer, and in fact I did something for I think it was Charlton TV earlier today, and they were asking what the biggest threat was, and I still say it's Abdul and Steffi. If they're on target, they've got nobody to hit.
No.
There's no focal point in them in the box. Nobody ever gets in the box. Jordan James is the only player that gets in the box.
Yeah, this gets me then because AU isn't a number 9, but he's playing that. Our other striker is Daka, and the least said about that at the moment, the better.
He scored 2 goals in a year.
Yeah, well, he's had his goal for this year, hasn't he?
One for Leicester and one for Zambia, I think, in the AFCON.
And, when he celebrated, he nearly broke his neck. Bloody hell. But then, so those are our 2 strikers. And then I'm reading today, it's all been confirmed that the one striker that we've got that could come through, that's been scoring for fun in the under-21s, has been let go to Northampton. Those are the sort of decisions. Because I was saying, come on, if Andy King's getting this job now, at least stop that happening and give this guy a chance. I mean, we were 2-0 up against Cheltenham in the FA Cup. We were so comfortable, and he took off Daka and he put on AU with Evans sat on the bench. Those are the sort of things that I think disconnected Marty and the fans.
Well, there's an interesting side to this. I mean, people talk about you should have played the youngsters. Yeah, but you got to play them at the right time. And at the moment, is this the right environment to blood a load of youngsters all at the same time? They've got very little experience. So, I mean, 10 of the 20 in the matchday squad against Oxford had all played academy football. At the end of the game, you had Silko Thomas, you had Louis Page, you had Jeremy Monger on the pitch. Ben Nelson had gone off. They got the under-21 centre-half sat on the bench as well because Wout Faes has gone out of the club. He did try to move away from the players that were serial failures and bring in youngsters. But if you bring in too many too quickly into an environment that's very, very challenging for them, I think that's a recipe for relegation.
More so than the players that we're playing. I mean, you're bringing Sumari on in the 90th minute.
What a statement that was.
Leaving.
What a statement that was. Jordan James is injured and Skip's out with a concussion. So you've got to fill 2 midfield places. What do? Sumari doesn't get a start. You play a 17-year-old. As a number 8.
So and I accept we were all happy with that, but then it's his decision. And I was looking, 90% of his substitutions throughout January have been like for like. No changes as we could. Well, mind you, against Oxford, had no idea what formation.
Say what they needed against Oxford.
Worse, because when I was watching the Cheltenham game, where we probably had more youth players on the pitch than any other time this season, you could tell that they knew what they were doing because they were being able to pass the ball. And I know this is shocking for Leicester fans this season. We were passing the ball to teammates. I mean, when you look at some of these games that the so-called big stars have been playing, we couldn't pass win, let alone the ball. But because they played together in the under-21s, they just knew what they were doing.
It's a different environment. I mean, I watched Luke Thomas make his debut during COVID when there was no fans in the ground. And I thought, this kid could go and play for England. And he scored that wonder goal at United.
Yeah.
And then the crowd started to come back, and it's a totally different environment. You know, you concede from a long throw in the first 4 minutes, and the crowd, you know, are getting on people's backs. It's a different environment to playing under 21 football, and to all due respect, playing League Cup football or whatever. It's a different environment. You need some senior players to guide those young players on the pitch. That's why you only really blood 2 or 3 at a time. You can't be blooding a whole team because they just won't be able to handle it. This is what the technical director's got to sort out. There is got to be a pathway from the academy to the first team, but it's got to be structured, and it's got to be measured as well. You've got to make the right decisions at the right time about playing young, inexperienced footballers. Now, there's a couple of youngsters that have been around the first team for a while now that I think have got the temperament to handle it, and Ben Nelson's one of them.
Yes.
He's going to be one of the assets they're going to sell at some stage. They will sell him, and there will be a lot of takers. But you don't want to curtail the development of some of the other youngsters as well. I mean, Bader's come in. He looks like, I watched him in the under-21s a couple of times as well, because what I do now, one of my parts of my new role is to do a column called Prospects, looking at talents that can come through and play first team football and break through. And I did go down to the Leicester Tottenham game early in the season to initially to watch Luca Williams-Barnett, who's going to be some player for Tottenham, by the way. But I watched Bader and I thought, he looks like he's got the right temperament, and he's breaking through now.
Yeah.
But you got to be really careful with these guys. But this all goes back to what the club's identity is going to be moving forwards. The technical director's coming. He's got to make these decisions. He's got to set this culture at the football club that the managers that come in have got to fit into, and the players they recruit have got to fit into. And if it's around developing youth, then you get some young senior players to come in and help those youth players coming in. Some of the senior players at the moment wouldn't help the youngsters because of their attitude.
And we know who you're referring to.
So you I mean, Jamie Vardy was a classic example. He was brilliant with the younger players. I mean, Hamza's told the story many times about, he picked up his kit out of the under-21 dressing room, put it in the senior dressing room, and said, "You're with us now." Yes. That's the sort of leadership you need, and that's what they're missing.
Yes. The last question before we go on to the actual interview itself. Look, Top took too long, I think, to sack Brendan Rodgers. Well, we know he took too long to sack Brendan Rodgers. He probably made the decision too quickly on Steve Cooper. He then couldn't sack Ruud van Nistelrooy when perhaps he wanted to because of the financial situation. Was this the right time? Did he get it right for this time? Was there any chance that he would have given him till the end of the season? Because let's be honest with you, he inherited a shit show, didn't he? Really.
You've got to have some sympathy with Marty Cifuentes. I've got to say, I'm not saying that it was the wrong decision to make the change, but and he would have known what he was taking on, surely. But you're coming into this situation, and this is what I mean about you. What sort of manager you're going to get in now? I mean, he would have known that he was coming into a situation where he wasn't going to have any money to spend. He's probably going to lose several of his what he would have perceived to be his best players. He'd have to call on youth and try and develop them in a situation where you've got a PSR points deduction hanging over your head during the season. So all your hard work could be wrecked by one decision from a commission, an independent commission, which we're still waiting for, which could come soon. And then, so it's not an easy job to take on. Yeah. The atmosphere around the club as well, he would have known all about that. So he's took that on. Fair play to him. The club haven't been able to help him. Let's put it that way. But it's not gone well. He's defensively. I mean, first of all, I think you make sure you get the defence right. Don't concede silly goals. No clean sheet in 23 league games is an awful record. And
the record for conceding the most goals in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, how many times were they 3 or 4 down at half time? No, 3 or 4 times this season. Yes. I mean, that's terrible. That's a terrible record, especially with the players that Leicester have still got at their disposal. They needed somebody to come in and try and inspire some of these players, even for the short term. I mean, there's going to be a massive amount of players leaving in the summer at the expiration of their contracts. you got to get the best out of them whilst you got them, because you're still paying them.
Yeah.
So you need somebody that was going to be an authoritative figure in there. And Marty I met him. Did a sit down with him, just me and him, and he was a really nice fellow. I was really impressed with him. Incredibly intelligent, spoke 8 languages, I believe. Passionate about football, but this probably was a job too big. One job too big for him at the moment, and he probably regret taking it.
Yeah.
I mean, where we go next? I mean, obviously, I've seen a few comments on the screen about what next. My personal view is you bring somebody in short term. The end of this season. This season is a season where you just got to survive. You just got to tread water. Forget about playoff pushes and all this, especially with the points deduction that's coming.
Yeah.
Get somebody in like Nigel Pearson to work with Kingy.
And we'll come back onto that in 1 second, but very quickly, and then we'll get it out of the way because it's a show on its own. PSR. I thought we'd actually hear that with Top being here. I thought that maybe one of the reasons it's come. I mean, we are nearly at the end of January. This is totally unfair. And I even heard a commentator from another club when I was watching the thing saying that this is totally unfair on the club because they can't come to us now and give us a 10, well, they can, but give us a 10, 12 point deduction. We've got, probably no chance of that would dump us in near the relegation zone, if not in it. Surely a decision has got to be soon.
Yeah. And we keep hearing that it might be soon. And you're absolutely right. And it should have come before, certainly at the start of a transfer window, because you know then what you can and can't do, what you need to do and what you don't need to do. I mean, if they don't get a points deduction, they don't need to throw the boat out. I mean, there's no money to spend in terms of permanent signings, but they're looking at loans.
Yeah.
So they do need some help in that squad, especially when you've let Vout go out. So, it is the sooner the better for everybody. But then there's still an appeals process. If it doesn't go Leicester's way, they can appeal. If it doesn't go the Premier League's way, they can appeal. So it can still drag out. It's such a mess. And I've been saying this for a long time. PSR just does not work.
Would it be easier, and it's basically a yes or no, would it be easier just for us to accept it now and just say, look, give it to us, let's get it out of the way, and let's just move on?
All depends what it is.
Well, yes, I get that. But, but they could say, like, well, look, keep it to 6 points, we'll accept it, we won't appeal, you've got your face back, if you like, after we rubbed you in it last time. Let's just do that and let's just move on and start afresh.
I agree, Chris. I think there comes a point when you've got to move on from PSR.
Yes. Yeah.
You've got to just sort of move on, because it's been shackles. It's like Marley's ghost wandering around. Yes. It's just been a shackle around Leicester for the last few years, and they just need to be free from those shackles and just start afresh. And I think this summer is going to be key to that, because all those big contracts, a lot of those big contracts are going to be done. And then they can move on and start to rebuild, hopefully with a new manager in that they believe in can lead them for the next couple of years, with a new management structure at the football club as well.
Getting on then to the interview, and you've just mentioned then names for managers, and I've just put 2 up today that are being linked, funnily enough, both by the same source on the same day. I mean, sort yourself out here. But I was also reading, and I don't know whether Top discussed it or not, but Andy King, that they see him as a future manager. Did he give you any clue on that at all?
I think it's early for Kingy, and I think he's conscious of that as well. I mean, this is the. I mean, I've done another part of my new role is a new series of features, and I'm 2 parts into a trilogy about managers.
Right.
And the first one was how managers react to the sacks. Are they relieved? I mean, you look at Amorim when he left Man United, he looked like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He looked relieved. Second part was what you do to prepare for the next job. And one of the guys I spoke to, it was David Flitcroft, and he said, look, you look at the continent and they don't even consider you unless you've had 2 or 3 sackings on your CV. But in England, if you've been sacked once, that could be it for you. So young coaches coming in now are like, I don't want to take that big job straight away, because if it goes wrong, that could be me done. I might never not get another chance. Whereas on the continent, they're like, well, at least you've got an experience now. He's like having a CV that's got a few deep on it, 2 or 3 jobs deep. You go, oh, he's more experienced. It doesn't matter how he performed, but at least he's learned from his mistakes. Where in this country, we have this attitude is, oh, he failed, and that's it.
I think unless you're one of the big managers, that's the case. I mean, I was watching. I was going down one of my YouTube rabbit holes last night, and I ended up watching a video. It was called "The Manager That Nobody Wanted." It was about Billy Davis, who used to be at Forest. What have you? Yes,
I was there. That press conference. It was a Leicester game. I was there that press conference when he come in. He did his post-match press conference, pre-match, because he said, "I'm going to be too busy and have more important people to talk to after the game than you. So what do you want to ask me?" And we were like, well, the game's not taken place yet. How can we ask you about a game that's not taken place yet, you idiot?
He was a Caesar, wasn't he? Let's put it that way. But I mean, I look at it and I would hope, and I don't know, but I think not, but I would hope that even when they took Marty on, look, the Oxford game didn't get him the sack. The 29 games that he's been in charge got him the sack. And at some point, you would hope that maybe John's looked at it and said, "Top, this isn't working out. It's not going well. The players can't pass. The fans are hating the team and the manager, and there's boos and what have you." And I would have hoped that maybe they'd already started to put a list down of managers that they could want. That said, I don't think they will have done, because Leicester never do anything like that. You're not shaking your head, so you're in agreement there. But having Andy King in place for the rest of the season, whilst we find the right manager, because it has to be the right manager this time. This next manager will have been the 10th manager in 10 years since we won the Premier League. I mean, we're Watford in blue.
Yeah, you can't keep doing this. And again, in the interview, Top acknowledged that.
Has to get it right. And hopefully the new technical director, he might agree with, because obviously he didn't agree with John. But can you see that happening? And then Andy King eventually maybe the manager after the next manager?
I think a lot of that depends on Andy King, really. I mean, he's a very intelligent guy, I have to say. He's, even from when he was quite young, when I first met him, you could tell there was something different about him in terms of his, the way he thought about the game and prepared himself. I mean, when he was a player, he was absolutely meticulous about his diet. I mean, he was really ultra professional, to the extent where if he went out for a meal with his family and there was nothing on the menu he could eat, he wouldn't just eat anything.
Right.
So he's always been incredibly dedicated and committed to his career, and I think he's going to be the same as a coach. And I've only bumped into him a couple of times since he came back to the club, and but I think he needs time, and I think he needs support, and I think he needs a mentor. If he's going to be a future Leicester City manager, I think he needs somebody that's going to be around him and help him. And we seem to have gone away from this a little bit. I mean, how many ex-players go straight into their first managerial role and they're just sort of left to their own devices, really?
Yes. Yeah.
Surely you have somebody alongside them that just helps them.
And we've got so many ex-players that could help him in specific areas, like Mark O'Brien with the crossing. Wes Morgan's gone back to Nottingham Forest. Why wasn't he utilised to help the defenders? Yeah. But let's get on to this. Let's get on to this now, because your headline, your sort of starting for this interview was Leicester City's Coon Top says, and we've got it going across the bottom as well, the players need support from the fans big time.
That was the end. That was the headline. My intro was about 10 years ago.
Oh, sorry, I meant the headline. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah,
I don't write headlines.
Yes.
That's the editors.
Is it? Right.
Yeah, he did say that that they need the fan support, and I'm getting to that stage now where I absolutely agree with him. I can understand fans protesting; they're unhappy. I get it. I think everybody gets it, and it's justifiable. But now, at the end of the Cifuentes era, we saw all these youngsters coming in, and Cifuentes did start to move out some of these senior pros that weren't performing, and you've got to back these kids. You've got to. You don't kill them. Give them. Get behind them. And then you might see their potential start to flourish a little bit. But I just think it's a very difficult environment to blood youngsters at the moment. And I know obviously fans walking out and chanting and protesting and stuff like that. Understandable. But there comes a stage where you've got to support this team. If you unless in a macabre way you want them to go down to League One and start again, and then you have a clear out. I mean, there's some fans that still want top to sell the club. He said when we asked him about if he's ever considered selling, he said no. I still want to leave them in a good place when I go. And he said hopefully like some Saudi Arabian prince would come in and sell them, and they could be the next Man City. But
I was watching the Sky Sports interview, and he said that
that's what as well. So
Prince will come in on a white horse, and
I think he's found it a challenge since he lost his dad and he took over. I think it's been a big challenge for him. It's been a learning curve for him. Talk about young players and young managers. We're talking about a young owner.
Yes, we are. And let's be honest with you, football fans are very fickle. These are the same people that were there when we got promoted, managed the Great Escape, went and did the impossible miracle, won the FA Cup, which we'd had 4 or 5 attempts at. But we do forget that. They have been hit, obviously, with COVID, with the business they're in. That doesn't help. And I would imagine that's what you said when you asked him, why has it gone wrong so quickly?
Yeah, that was the first question, actually. One of the first questions we asked. Why has it gone wrong so quickly? Because, the first question was, what did you think of the atmosphere yesterday and the fans protesting? What did you think of that? Because he'd been away for two months. Yeah. And I knew I could get a raw emotion out of him. And obviously, it's you can't quote this because it was a physical reaction. He just shook his head and that's when I think he knew that he had to remove Marcus.
But interestingly, it was at the game, like I said, the first one in a couple of months, and I think the fans felt that. But again, nobody had come out and said, "Look, bear with him. The Queen Mother's just died." With the connections they've got with the family and all this, that, and the other, different cultures, people may have understood a little bit. But interestingly, when I was watching the feed, which was obviously the Leicester City cameras, not once did they show Top. I had no idea who was actually there until about 3/4 of the way during the game when somebody said.
Obviously, I knew because I knew I was meeting him the next day.
Oh, yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
But it wasn't shown.
I don't know if that would be helpful, putting him or John on screen or anything like that. So at this moment in time. But
But did he accept when you're saying why has it gone wrong so quickly? Was he contrite? Did he sort of say, "Look, I have to accept my portion of the blame"?
No, I don't think he said that, but he did say he was surprised and shocked that team went down, and I can see his point because I struggle with it sometimes when you think the players that Leicester had at their disposal, 22, 23. They're still performing in the Premier League now. I mean, I know Maddison's got an injury, but what a player he is. Tielemans, Harvey Barnes, Jamie Vardy, Johnny Evans, all those players that they had that were top players, and they couldn't string it together that season. And the seeping negativity that was started to come into the club around that time, ever since like Brendan was pitch side after the Forest game, was talking about a restart, a refresh of the squad, needs a refresh. Some of these players have come as far as they can with this club, but then he couldn't change them. And then that negativity kept on coming, when he said, "This isn't the same club that I joined," and stuff. They're all true, all true statements, but they didn't help. That negativity that was seeping in. And
I just wondered if it was a sliding doors moment, because he'd obviously gone and talked to people, few big names out there that apparently as well, Ivan Toney possibly, but had he had the money for a refresh?
He had players down the training ground that we were going to sign, and then he was told he couldn't because they could have PSR. So I mean, that's what we understand, but the way the club works is usually, there's a collective decision made on signings. It's not just the manager.
No. But that's going to piss whoever the manager is. That's going to piss you off, isn't it?
Yeah, and but if you look at the way it ended for him at Celtic, it was very similar.
Yeah,
Where he had great success. I mean, he won every trophy, time after time. And then, but towards the end, then the tone started to shift a little bit, and then the results started to change. And I mean, Brendan is a very good coach, and he will have success wherever he goes initially. But there always seems to be a point when it all goes wrong. And I do look back at Leicester under him, and I had some great memories. The European trips we had, the FA Cup final. Obviously, what a shame the first FA Cup win wasn't in front of a full Wembley Stadium. And it was fantastic, but they did start to spend ridiculous amounts of money on wages and long contracts, and they gave them the keys to the kingdom, didn't they? I mean, if they're one thing they're guilty of, I mean, a lot of decisions are criticised by and scrutinised by supporters, but I think the biggest problem they had was that they went away from you're an employee of this football club, and we've got this plan, and you've got to fit this plan. They basically went, here's the keys to the kingdom. What do you want? And it just spiraled. I mean, they were paying him £8.5 million a year, which was complete. I mean, Leicester that's not Leicester. That wasn't Leicester before. They weren't spending that sort of money, and it was just really, really. That's when I sort of thought Leicester lost their identity. That's when I talk about losing your identity.
But again, do you think that, and I've said, almost winning the Premier League and the FA Cup was almost like an albatross around our neck. Because if we won the Premier League and then went and signed a unknown mid-20s striker from, some team that had just won the conference, and we paid £1 million, the fans would have been, it would have been like a Notre Dame moment. They'd have been outside the King Power with pitchforks.
Well, again, Top touched on this. He said, because we asked him about that. I said, did you? Well, I actually did. I said, did you give Brendan too much? Did you let him start picking the players? Because, I mean, I still am baffled by how you go from signing Charles Sionchu and Wesley Fofana and then Yannick Vestergaard.
Yeah.
And I remember asking him in a press conference saying, is Yannick going to take time to adjust to the way you want to play? Because he looks like a very different type of defender to what you've had before. And he went, with all due respect, I think he is the right fit for us. He's the right profile of defender. And then it weren't long after he was saying, no, he wasn't. So that must have been a Brendan pick. I can't imagine that, because they have a 4-man recruitment policy here. If you're chairman who makes the final decision, director of football, head of recruitment, and the manager identifies what parts of the team he wants to improve. The head of recruitment goes out and brings in the options they can have. Director of football then goes out and negotiates for A, B, or C, whatever they can get. And top ultimately is the money man signs the check. That's how they've always worked. And I just felt under Brendan, they went away from that a little bit, because he brought in his own head of recruitment as well. And it started to be a little bit more what Brendan and his head of recruitment wanted. So,
well, I've had this discussion a lot. I say discussion a lot with people in different chats on different shows. Was it ever a player brought in that Brendan or any manager didn't want? Because as a manager, yes, I get that. So you say or let's say now, you might say we need a new right back. So scouts will go out and find a right, and he might even say, "I want a new right back. Here's a couple of names that I'm interested in," and then he comes back and they go, "No, we're going to give you this guy," and we go, "Well, I don't want him. It's not somebody I want."
They used to have a recruitment policy where they had a certain profile that they were looking for. So when they got Fofana in, there was other defenders around Europe that fitted a similar profile that they could have gone for as well. But they went and pushed the boat out for Fofana, and it was a very good signing. He was a very good player, and they made a lot of money on him ultimately. I can remember the one anecdote I can think of is James Maddison. Now, it was the recruitment team that were pushing on James Maddison, and they thought Claude Puel didn't know much about him, and I think Claude basically thought he was a 6. He was a playmaker, would sit in front of the back 4 and spray the ball around. And it was the recruitment department was saying, no, this guy can play as a 10. He's an attacking midfield player. That's where he's best, in tight positions. He can turn on the ball and create, score goals. And they were absolutely right. And Claude was convinced enough to go, okay, I'll take him and see what we can do with him. And obviously then he turned into the 10 that he was under Brendan. He was a very talented player and a key player for Leicester. But I think that was really when they had some recruitment scouts and analysts that were really sort of clued on, and the recruitment was really good around that period. It's not been for a number of seasons now, and a lot of that has been hampered by PSR and the club's financial situation.
I'm just saying, then you were saying about 2023, and I'm just reading here, Kuhn Top admitted there was complacency within the club during the 2022-23 season. Was that a case of that they just didn't think we could go down?
Yeah, they thought they were too good. For the reasons we discussed earlier. I mean, if you look around the dressing room, you're going, I've got Jamie Vardy over there, I've got Yuri Tielemans there, I've got Johnny Evans there, I've got Harvey Barnes there, I've got, you think, we're not going down. And then, you start to get a little bit complacent about it, and you start to lose sight of what it is to fight. And those guys hadn't been in a relegation fight. The club hadn't been in a relegation fight since, the first season back in the Premier League. So they weren't experienced and weren't ready for it. And it all caught up with them in the end. And then the recruitment in that January transfer window, when they realised they were in a bit of trouble, when they brought in Harry Souttar and Victor Christiansen and Tete, who looked amazing on his debut at Villa and then disappeared. I don't know, like an imposter had come back.
I suppose he's the football equivalent of a musical one-hit wonder.
He wrote Bohemian Rhapsody in the first appearance, and then after that it was Agadoo.
Yeah, I wonder where you're going to go, but yes, indeed. But it was a quick. But does Top accept that by him not coming out and releasing anything, that because the next thing you said is, what does he make of the supporter unrest? And, I go back to that first transfer window under Brendan, when nothing was said, no signings were coming in, and he waited until the programme on the Manchester United game, which was the night of the transfer window closing, and that was the first time we knew anything about PSR problems. So again, it was keeping it to himself. So was he accepting possibly that, yes, there is unrest, and you can't hide the fact there's unrest. And I don't know whether John Rudkin still has been going to the games. He may not do for safety reasons. But does Top accept that he's contributed towards that? That's why there is the unrest.
Yeah, I think he accepts that. He understands that. I think privately he wants to know what fans think, the negative as well as the positive. I think he's fully committed to the club still, and I just think he realised now he's got to have a structure that's going to help him run the club and to support the fans. And I think he genuinely wants to win the fans back and get them back on board and back in the club and get the club back into the Premier League. Having met him and listened to him, I mean, albeit for an hour, I did come away thinking, because I did start to have my doubts whether he'd want to move on to other things now, and but I got the impression his bonds to the club are still there, and I mean, we all know why. I mean, outside ground,
and he puts his he puts his money where his mouth is, because he does keep transferring these debts into loan into debt.
I mean, when Brendan was talking about this in the club that it used to be, it wasn't because of lack of money, although COVID obviously hit them massively.
Yeah,
in terms of finances, both King Power and the football club. But it wasn't a lack of money. It's like they realised, hang on a second, these rules here that, you know, I mean, we don't. Did they know that they were that close to it? I mean, it could be argued they were over it for a number of years, but they've managed to dodge the bullet up until now. But you know, and I've got my own opinions of PSR. I don't think it's.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have as well.
Yeah,
it's not fit for purpose at Premier League or Championship level, to be honest.
No. And it all obviously, well, we all know it all depends who you are as well. They will deny that, but
exactly. Yeah. I mean, they got ridiculous situations where clubs are selling their women's team back to themselves to generate income.
Yes,
you know that how on earth? I mean, people go, "Oh, Leicester found a loophole to get out of it" when they argued they weren't a Premier League club or an EFL club. It's only the same as selling your women's team back to yourself, isn't it? Or a hotel back to yourself. It's the same thing. You're just finding a loophole.
Could we not sell Beaver?
Well, I said this, and I think I've said it on one of your shows.
Yeah.
Before. Beaver Drive is a massive asset, and it's in that area. It's a big built-up housing area. If you sold that and then moved because the Seagrave's a enormous training ground.
Yeah,
move the women down there with the facilities down there. They would probably benefit as well. But I don't know why, but they haven't. But that would have been that would have probably got them out of PSR trouble.
Yeah, and look, you know, we mentioned before, and you do it, and one of your questions is about going down to League One, which is like going all the way back to where we started again. I don't think he would be able to sell the club anyway for the sort of money he wanted until we were back in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, they spent for about 35 million on the club in 2010. What would that club be worth now? Considerably more. He'd make a huge profit on Leicester City now.
Yeah,
I mean, they're in pretty much the same position than when he bought them.
Yes,
when his dad bought them in 2010. So, but he still make a huge profit on them. But what would Leicester City be worth if they were still in the Premier League and they'd done the developments of the stadium and all outside the ground? I mean, it would have been worth a lot more. I did ask him about that as well. What was going to happen about that? And he said, well, once we got relegated, and the costs of building that as well changed during COVID because the materials skyrocketed in terms of costs. So you know, it's but that is the way out of PSR, is to have revenue that is not reliant on match day, to have something all week long. You know, offices, hotels, entertainment venue, car park, all the stuff they got there, all the retail. I mean, that would have brought in millions, and Leicester wouldn't have had any PSR issues there.
No.
I mean, I hope they get back to that project at some stage, but that is reliant on them being back in the Premier League.
I think so, and I understand that because they're not going, they're not filling the ground at the moment. So why build another 8,000 seats? And I remember I used to work for Blackburn Rovers for my sins, and I was in the sales department where we would sell all the boxes during the week for people to do interviews and what have you. And obviously the main problem with getting people into Blackburn, once you'd gone out of the sort of local area, was we had Man United at the bottom of the road. Oh, Blackburn Rovers, Man United. Yeah, I think I know where we'll go. But Leicester haven't got any of that, have they? They're the only club. So, and like you say, there's no point doing it now because I think that would just be a huge mistake, and wait till we get back in the Premier League, and then yes, it would probably make sense then.
Oh, absolutely, and it would be a game changer for the club if they could do that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We've done would you sell the club? We've done that. So, anything else from that you took away? I mean,
there was so much. I couldn't get it all in the article, so obviously restricted to 2,000 words because people have fallen asleep after that reading my columns. But there was so many.
That watching Leicester at the moment, anyway. So
he did talk about Susan Whelan, how she'd done well for the club, and he decided something needed to change. And now I know a lot of fans would think he might have wanted to change it in another direction, but he decided to change Susan. And I've got a lot of sympathy for her because I thought she was a very good operator. Didn't really get involved in the football side of it. It was more the commercial side of it. And then obviously we all know what the challenges COVID brought in terms of commercial revenue. And that was the big problem, was because, and I've said this many times, your expenditure and players and wages and contracts and what you're committed to keeps rising. Your revenue, you're trying to get up there as well. And suddenly COVID hits it, and it's very, very difficult then to make PSR. And I think that's the fundamental reason why they got into PSR trouble, because of COVID. Yes. The club then was struggling to match the expenditure and the commitments they made on contracts.
Yeah.
So, in many ways, it was very unfortunate. It was a gamble that didn't pay off because of the pandemic. But
you look at, we're not the first team that has happened to. And, you look at other teams that it's been worse for. Leeds United, they won the first division in the last season before it was the Premier League. And yes, anybody that's young and watching, there was football before the Premier League. And they chased the dream. Yeah. And it went well tits up for them. And they ended up
had Champions League football as well, Chris, didn't they?
Yeah, they got, was it to the semi-final or something for the Champions League? Yeah. And they ended up in League One, and it took them. They weren't like us coming out of it at one go. And then Blackburn Rovers, they broke the mould, if you like. And all right, the argument there would be that they bought it, and Jack Walker was the first guy to come in and spend millions and what have you, but they went then down to League One and could very well be going down again this season. So, it's not unique to Leicester. It seems, you try and chase that dream because you want to. That's what football's all about, isn't it?
Well, let me ask you this then, Chris, as a Leicester fan. Would you rather had the ride that you've had for the last 10 years, 15 years under King Power, or just be still sat in the Championship mid-table every season? I mean, it's boom.
I get asked this by opposition fans all the time, and I would do the last 10 years without a doubt. If they came to me and said, like, well, I'm going to give you all this, you'll do the Great Escape, you'll win the Premier League, quarterfinals of the Champions League, and everything else that came with it, but at the end you're going to get relegated. Do you want to take that? Yes. 7 days a week and twice on a Sunday, as they say. Yeah. I have cried in the last 10 years so much over my club in a nice way. I never thought I would see us lift the Premier League trophy. And I don't know who the guy was that was stood next to me, that we were hugging each other, crying at the end and what have you. I never thought I would be there with my son. I wasn't at the ground, but watching us win the FA Cup. Be with my son when you heard the Champions League music blare out the speakers. I mean, they were absolutely great moments. And there's many clubs haven't enjoyed, or Spurs, they haven't enjoyed that. But, the other question is, of course, you've got to ask yourself is, do you want a club that is bobbing around in the bottom half of the Championship, but still there? Or do you want a team like a Bury or somebody that goes out of business and you lose the football club?
I don't think there's any danger of that.
Oh, no, but you see, that's what I'm saying. Things are bad at the moment, but could always be worse.
I think this is a reality check for Leicester City, this period now. They've had those incredible highs. I mean, if you did it on a chart, the arc is incredible. The rise, they went meteoric, but the decline has been also like a ski jump. So, but you got to launch off and fly again. And I'm just hoping all these appointments that are coming in, the restructuring of the club. I'm hoping that Top has learned from mistakes. I just noticed somebody in the comments saying it's rubbish that COVID was an issue. It absolutely was. It has. It is. The world has changed. Not just football. Not just one football club. The world has changed because of COVID.
No. I mean, if you look at Man City, their owners are very much into oil, obviously, and everything. Were they affected by COVID? No. We've got the owners that are very much into tourism. Well, yes, of course they were bloody affected worse than anybody else, you know.
And they are recovering now. I've been looking at the King Power spreadsheet, so to speak, and the recovery is on a little bit, but they're still going to suffer for years to come because we all changed. We've all changed. I don't travel around as much as I used to. You know, we work from home more than we ever used to do, and we don't spend as much money because of the credit crunch at the moment. Although that's not entirely related to COVID, there's a bigger picture to football.
You have to accept that. Do you see Leicester? Look, the next manager choice, as we said earlier, it is such an important one, and I think everybody's happy that Andy Ward is the guy that's going to be taking us through till the end, possibly till the end of the season, because we saw what he could do in the pre-seasons. We'd got a manager who'd come in, like I said earlier, he was looking at last season and going, well, Ruud played 4-2-3-1, lost 17 games. Yeah, I can make it work, though. It's just got to be spot on. And I think the thing that annoys me most, I know hindsight is a wonderful thing, but when Chris Wilder was linked with us, and I said I could understand if the club went for him, because in the short term,
yeah,
keep us, get us promoted hopefully, and then keep us up. And everyone's, well, no, don't. He's a dinosaur. Don't want him. Well, and it's not done so bad at Sheffield United, and the fact that he wanted the job and we'd interviewed him, and as I did on an AI T-shirt like the old bullseye. Here's what you could have had. You know what I mean? But for me, I think we've got to go for a manager that isn't necessarily just going to play 4-2-3-1 and play this Barcelona. We haven't got the players to do that.
Exactly. I mean, what players have you got? What style of football would fit these players right now? I think you've got to shore up the defence. You have to. I mean, your hands are tied a little bit in terms of the transfer window. I've mentioned the limited options at centre back now. Fars has gone out. You've only got Nelson, who's injured, Vestergaard and Nicoli, and then you're dipping into the youth. So you've got to have somebody who's got some experience of the youth, of developing young players and giving them confidence and a structure they can just follow. So you've got to have somebody with vast experience, somebody who's got a defensive mindset in terms of how you build from the back. You get the foundations right and you build everything else on top of that. I keep going back to Nigel Pearson. I mean, I've had my run-ins with him in the past in a professional sense.
If one of my co-presenters, Tommy, he's working tonight because he works in a pub, and he would be kissing your feet at this point because he wants.
I'm not saying that's a long-term thing.
No,
but right now,
to help Andy King, and he's worked with Andy King before at Bristol in that sort of thing. We're all saying possibly Nigel Pearson for a director of football, but you want somebody to come in that's going to say, this ain't working, top. And I keep going back to Chris Wilder because I use him as the example. He went back to Sheffield United for the third time. When he took over from Sellers had gone in and got rid of a lot of his players because he didn't want to play his way. So when Wilder came back in, a lot of the players that he had gone. So we had to have a look and go, right, what is the best thing, like you say, for these players that can they play? And he adapted it. And when he played us in the first game at the KP, I think they played 4-4-2. And we were 3-0 down at half time. Marty then changed it and said, let's see what we can do. And we got 2 goals back, and we had Chris Wilder worried on the sidelines. Then Sheffield United in the second game played 4-4-2. Now, having seen that as any normal human being would have done, he thought, he'd have thought, if I go 4-2-3-1 again, we're going to get stuff. What did Marty do? 4-2-3-1. And this, I think, is why he lost the fans, because we couldn't see that he was trying to do anything different, and we'd been there with Rude.
Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, they've followed a similar pattern in the last couple of managers. Steve Cooper as well played that system. I mean, always it's a 4-4-2 out of possession, but then they obviously switch into that 4-2-3-1 formation as well. But a lot of it comes down to the players you've got at your disposal and how you motivate them and
Had
how
he lost
clear
the
you are.
dressing room?
Say again?
Had he lost the dressing room? It looked like he had.
From what I understand from talking to people, they all thought he was a nice guy, respected him, but there wasn't quite that authority or respect that he was the guy that was going to lead them in the right direction. So you need somebody who's going to come in and really stir the pot in there, and see what characters he's got in that dressing room. You need somebody who's authoritative, that's going to come in and have an aura about them, a persona. That's somebody that they can all go, whoa, I ain't messing with him.
Yes.
And then give them clarity over what they have got to do in that game. This is what I want you to do. Anything, if I'll give you some freedom, I'll give you some slack, but that's what I expect from you today.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all big enough for it to take it.
Well, you'd hope so. Obviously, look, time's against you there, but I'm going to leave you one last question, very last question. You threw Nigel Pearson's name out there. Can I throw Dave Challoner's name out there?
Of course you can. I mean, somebody's just said Martin O'Neill. Now he would have been perfect as well, but obviously Celtic want him to do that exact role that Leicester could probably hope for him to do. And Leicester have approached Martin several times in the past to come back, and he's always said no.
Right.
But I just think you need somebody with real authority here, somebody with real experience, and somebody's prepared to do it on a short-term basis to the end of the season. Just get the club through this campaign with everything that's coming their way in terms of PSR. Just get them through. Somebody that's got a level head, is calm, and then and it's got a bit of fighting spirit as well about them. And I think you'll be all right then. And then you can make the decisions about the future. What the identity is going to be in the summer. Yeah.
And like I say, just let us know about the PSR, because we can't really make any plans until we know that,
Exactly. We don't know, do we?
Rob, thank you so very, very much for coming on. Be interesting to see. The proof is in the pudding, so we'll see how much of this actually comes through, if it does at all. But I'll let you go now. But thank you very, very much. And everybody go out and check The Athletic and subscribe to it. It is, don't bother with all the others. The Athletic's the best.
Thank you very much, Chris.
All right, mate. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Thanks so much. And it is the best. It is. Rob, he's followed Leicester. It's not necessarily his team. I think everybody knows that, but they have followed him. He's followed Leicester for a long, long time. He knows what he's talking about. And you read some of this bullshit that other, like I said, I put out one outlet actually put today that we were after two different managers on the same report on the same day. How do you work that out? Chris Coleman, somebody just mentioned. Well, look, let me tell you something, everybody. Coming up in about 43 and a half minutes' time, not that I'm counting, we've got this. The Foxes Forum. It should have been on now, but of course we've had Rob on, so it was been put back. There's 6 of us on there tonight, including, I have to say, hey, rock and roll. Yeah, Dave Bartram from Show Waddy Waddy is joining us as well, who is not impressed with the interview. If I say that, I would not be lying. So please join me back again at 9 and we look, because last night we looked at, did Marty have to go? And I think we all accepted the answer was yes. Tonight we're saying, where do we go from here? That has been an absolutely great interview. What I'm going to do, actually, very, very quickly, before everybody goes, is I'm going to put, because there's been different interviews and different write-ups and what have you, I'm going to put the link for Rob's yeah, there we go. Rob's article. The link is there. Please do go and check it out. It's the only one I've read. As I say, it's the best one, and I don't say that just because he comes on. Guys, look, do what it says below. If you're new, please do subscribe. Like the video. It's free, and I keep saying this. This costs nearly £600-700 a year to run, with everything that goes with it. And if you want to, liking just helps the channel with the YouTube algorithms. If you want to become a member, it's only $1.99 a month. You don't get an awful lot for that, but again, that's supporting the club, and that's not even the cost of half a pint of beer. And share it. If you know there's a Leicester fan that's not been watching us, share it to them. Thank you very much. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Really, really do appreciate it. Biggest thanks to Rob as well. And if you're listening via your favourite podcast platform, whichever that may be, thank you very much as always for lending us your ear. I'll see you at 9 o'clock. Don't touch that dial. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.